What if the meals that kept millions of Americans alive cost less than a postage stamp per serving, and your grandmother made them without a recipe? Number 7 on this list costs under 40 cents to make today. It took under 10 minutes in 1973. Nutritionists now call its core ingredient a superfood. Number 14 was carried in a paper bag by factory workers across the Rust Belt for 30 straight years. They lived on average into their mid-80s. Number 9 has been made in American kitchens since before the Depression. It requires 4 ingredients. It has never once let anyone down. These are not forgotten recipes. They are forgotten knowledge. The kind that kept people warm, fed, and alive on almost nothing. The kind that is sitting in your family's past right now, waiting. Subscribe before we begin. You will want to come back to this one. The countdown starts now. Number 25. Saltine crackers with peanut butter and banana. A sleeve of saltines cost 49 cents in 1978. A jar of peanut butter cost 58 cents and lasted 2 weeks of lunches. One banana cost under a dime. You lay the crackers flat on a plate. You spread peanut butter with the back of a spoon, thick enough to hold the banana slice, but thin enough to let the cracker carry the weight. The banana goes on top. You eat it immediately, before the cracker softens. The peanut butter came from southern peanut farming traditions that go back to the early 20th century. Crackers and spread meals were common across working-class households in every region during the post-war decades, when gas and electricity cost money, but no-cook lunches cost nothing. For a senior living alone, this is a 10-second meal with no standing, no stove, and no cleanup beyond a plate. The protein in 2 tablespoons of peanut butter delivers sustained energy for 3 hours. It also requires almost no jaw strength. That matters more than most cookbooks acknowledge. Number 24. Canned tomato soup with crackers. A can of Campbell's tomato soup cost 23 cents in 1972. Made with water instead of milk, it stretched to 2 servings. You open the can. You add 1 can of water. You heat it over medium in a small saucepan, stirring once or twice until steam rises from the surface and the color deepens from pale orange to a darker, almost rust red. The smell fills the kitchen immediately. Warm tin, sweet tomato, a faint trace of iron from the can itself. Tomato soup became a household staple during the Depression, when Campbell's marketed it as a base for casseroles and a complete lunch. By the 1970s, it was in virtually every American pantry, regardless of income level. For seniors, this soup is hot, soft, and requires no chewing. It is ready in under 5 minutes with 1 pot and 1 can opener. On a fixed income, a case of 12 cans, around $3 in the early 70s, covered 2 full weeks of lunch. That is arithmetic, not nostalgia. Number 23. Egg drop soup. 2 eggs, 1 can of chicken broth, a pinch of salt. Total cost in 1975, under 30 cents for a full bowl. You bring the broth to a simmer in a small pot. You beat 2 eggs in a cup with a fork, 30 seconds, no more. You pour the eggs in a thin, slow stream while stirring the broth in a single direction. The eggs set immediately into long, pale yellow ribbons suspended in the golden broth. The texture is silky. The smell is mild and savory and faintly of butter, even though there is no butter. This is a Chinese dish with a recorded history going back over 1,000 years. Chinese American communities in California and New York prepared it at home daily throughout the 20th century as a fast, nourishing meal for one. For a senior, this soup takes under 10 minutes, uses 1 pot, and delivers complete protein from the eggs alongside the warmth of liquid broth. It is easy to swallow, gentle on digestion, and leaves almost no dishes. Number 22. Grits with butter and salt. A 1-pound bag of stone-ground grits cost 35 cents in 1974 and produced 12 full servings. You bring 2 cups of water to a boil. You pour in a half cup of grits slowly, stirring as you go. The pot thickens almost immediately. You reduce the heat. You stir every minute or two for 10 minutes while the grits absorb the water, turning from loose and grainy to smooth and dense. A tablespoon of real butter goes in at the end. Salt. Grits are the descendant of hominy, a food made from dried corn by indigenous peoples across the American South for thousands of years. African American communities in the South carried the tradition through the antebellum period and beyond. By the 1970s, grits were a daily breakfast across the entire Southern working class, regardless of race or income. For seniors, grits are soft, warming, and require almost no dental work. They cost almost nothing. Number 21. Toast with bacon fat and salt. Bacon drippings saved in a coffee can, white bread, a cast iron skillet. Total cost in 1971 for 2 slices, under 5 cents. You heat the skillet low. You take a spoonful of the solidified white fat from the can. Every serious kitchen kept one on the back of the stove, and let it melt across the surface. You lay the bread flat in the fat. Press gently with the back of the spatula. 30 seconds on each side. The bread goes golden and lacy at the edges. The fat soaks into the crumb. You pull it out and salt it while it is still hot. Saving bacon fat was standard practice in American households from colonial times through at least the 1980s. During wartime, housewives turned drippings in at butcher shops for the war effort. The practice required nothing but a used tin can and the understanding that fat is not waste. For seniors on fixed incomes, this is a zero-waste meal from ingredients already in the kitchen. No shopping required. It is done in 3 minutes. Number 20. Macaroni and cheese from scratch. Half a pound of elbow macaroni cost 19 cents in 1973. A block of Velveeta cost 69 cents and lasted 4 uses. You boil the macaroni in salted water until just soft. Drain it. Return it to the pot over low heat. You add cubed Velveeta directly into the hot pasta. It melts within 90 seconds into a smooth, orange sauce that clings to every noodle. Salt. A pinch of black pepper if you have it. This is not the boxed version. This is what American home cooks made before the box existed. Velveeta was developed in 1918 by a Swiss immigrant named Emile Fry in Monroe, New York. It was designed to be stable at room temperature and melt cleanly, qualities that made it central to working-class kitchens for the next 60 years. For seniors, this is soft, filling, and hot. It takes under 15 minutes from cold water to table. The fat and carbohydrate provide dense, sustained calories, important for older adults whose appetite has decreased with age. Number 19. Vienna sausages on white bread. A can of Armour Vienna sausages cost 39 cents in 1976. A loaf of white bread cost 32 cents. You open the can. The sausages come out in a pale, slick row, soft, already cooked, smelling of salt and mild pork and the faint sweetness of the canning liquid. You lay 2 or 3 on a single slice of bread. Mustard if you have it. You fold the bread over or eat it flat. Vienna sausages became an American pantry staple during World War II, when canned protein was rationed and shelf-stable. By the 1970s, they were in every discount grocery in the country, sold primarily to working-class buyers who needed protein that required no refrigeration and no cooking. For seniors living alone, a can requires no opener stronger than 2 fingers on a pull tab, no cooking, no refrigeration before opening, and no utensils beyond a fork. The entire meal takes 90 seconds. That matters on days when standing at a stove is simply not possible. Here is something nobody says out loud. There is a certain kind of hunger that has nothing to do with food. It is the hunger that comes from eating alone at the same table where you once fed a family. It is the hunger of a kitchen that used to smell like something and now mostly doesn't. The meals on this list were not always eaten alone. Most of them were made for other people, for children who needed to be fed before school, for husbands coming off a late shift, for Sunday tables with folding chairs borrowed from the church. Now you are the one eating, and the table is quiet. That is not a reason to stop cooking. That is, if anything, the exact reason to keep going. Because the act of making something, anything, even toast in bacon fat, is the act of saying that you are still worth feeding, that you are still here, that your presence at the table matters. Number 18. Fried bologna on white bread. A pound of bologna cost 68 cents in 1973. A loaf of Wonder Bread cost 32 cents. This was a full week of lunches for under $1.25. You drop a thick slice of bologna into a dry cast-iron skillet. No oil needed. The fat in the bologna renders immediately. Within 90 seconds, the edges curl upward and a dark ring of caramelized fat forms at the rim. The center blisters. The smell is pork and iron and something savory that is impossible to replicate with any other cut of meat. You pull it out. Mustard. The bread closes over it. Bologna has roots in the Italian city of Bologna, where mortadella, its ancestor, has been made since at least the 15th century. The American version was a Depression-era innovation, designed to be shelf-stable, protein-dense, and affordable for working families. For seniors, one slice delivers meaningful protein in a form that requires no chewing strength and no preparation beyond 30 seconds in a hot pan. Number 17. Oatmeal with brown sugar and butter. A 1-pound container of Quaker old-fashioned oats cost 41 cents in 1974 and contained 26 servings. You bring 1 cup of water to a boil. You pour in a half cup of rolled oats. You stir. The oats absorb the water within 2 minutes, thickening from loose and pale to dense and cream-colored. Off the heat, you add a small pat of butter and a spoonful of brown sugar. The butter melts into the surface in a slow, amber pool. Oatmeal has been the foundational morning meal of the Scottish Highlands, the Irish countryside, and the American frontier since the 17th century. Quaker Oats, founded in 1901, made rolled oats a national pantry staple. By the 1960s, a can was present in almost every American household that cooked breakfast at home. For seniors, oatmeal is soft enough for any dental condition, warm enough for cold mornings, and filling enough to hold until early afternoon. At roughly 1.5 cents per serving in 1974, it was the most cost-efficient hot breakfast available. Number 16. Canned salmon patties. A 15-ounce can of pink salmon cost 89 cents in 1977. Combined with 1 egg and a 1/4 cup of crackers, it produced 4 full patties. You drain the salmon and flake it into a bowl. You crush 4 or 5 saltines over it with your fingers. You add 1 egg and a pinch of salt. You mix it with a fork until it holds its shape when pressed. Into a skillet with a spoon of oil over medium heat. 2 minutes per side. The outside goes crisp and golden. The inside stays soft and pink. Salmon patties were a Friday staple in Catholic households across America throughout the 20th century, when meat was forbidden during Lent. By the 1970s, they had spread well beyond religious practice into mainstream working-class cooking as a protein that was both shelf-stable and filling. For seniors, 1 can makes 4 patties, several meals across the week. They can be made sitting down in a low pan and eaten with a fork. The soft interior requires no dental work. Number 15. Bean and ham soup. A pound of dried navy beans cost 19 cents in 1971. A smoked ham hock cost 35 cents. Together, that 54 cents produced 6 full bowls of soup. You soak the beans overnight in cold water. In the morning, you drain them, cover with fresh water, add the ham hock, and bring the pot to a slow boil. You let it simmer for 2 hours. The broth turns from pale to amber. The beans soften completely. The ham falls from the bone. You pull the bone out and shred the meat back into the pot. This soup has roots in the Pennsylvania Dutch tradition, in Southern Appalachian cooking, and in the U.S. Senate's own cafeteria, which has served bean soup every day since 1903 without interruption. For seniors, this soup is pure protein and fiber in a form soft enough to eat without difficulty. It keeps for 4 days in the refrigerator. One cook session, roughly 30 minutes of active time, produces a week's worth of lunches. Number 14. Grilled cheese sandwich. 2 slices of white bread, 2 slices of American cheese, 1 tablespoon of butter. Total cost in 1972, under 15 cents. You butter one side of each slice. You lay them butter side down in a cold skillet, then turn the heat to medium-low. The butter begins to foam slowly. You lay the cheese across the bread. Cover the pan loosely with a lid. The cheese begins to soften and sag at the edges within 2 minutes. You press gently with the spatula. You flip it when the underside is the color of a copper penny. Grilled cheese in its modern form became standard American home cooking in the 1920s, when sliced bread and processed cheese became simultaneously available. By the 1950s, it was the default school lunch across the country. For seniors, this is a complete meal in under 10 minutes. It requires standing for perhaps 2 minutes over the stove. It delivers fat, protein, and carbohydrate in a form that is warm, soft, and familiar, a combination that matters more as we age than nutritionists often admit. Number 13. Rice with soy sauce and fried egg. A 5-pound bag of long-grain white rice cost 79 cents in 1974 and produced over 30 servings. 1 egg cost under 5 cents. You cook a half cup of rice in 1 cup of salted water, bring it to a boil, cover, reduce to the lowest setting, leave it for 18 minutes. While the rice finishes, you fry an egg in a spoon of butter or oil over medium heat, breaking the yolk so it runs across the surface and sets flat. You slide the egg over the rice. Soy sauce, a few drops, goes over everything. This meal exists in some form in nearly every East and Southeast Asian food tradition. In Japan, it is called tamago gohan. In Korea, it appears as egg rice. Chinese-American households across California prepared versions of this dish daily throughout the 20th century as a fast, economical one bowl. Number 12. Cornbread and buttermilk. A box of Jiffy cornbread mix cost 22 cents in 1973. A quart of buttermilk cost 39 cents. You make the cornbread according to the box. 1 egg, 1/3 cup of milk, 1 box of mix into a greased pan, 20 minutes at 400 degrees. While it is still warm, you crumble a square into a glass. You pour cold buttermilk over it until it is submerged. You eat it with a spoon. This is an old Appalachian tradition called crumbling cornbread into milk or buttermilk. It was eaten at breakfast, at supper, and at the end of the day when nothing else remained. Every farmhouse kitchen from Virginia to Alabama served it in some form between the Civil War and the middle of the 20th century. For seniors, this requires no teeth, no cooking beyond the cornbread itself, and no utensils beyond a spoon and a glass. The buttermilk is a probiotic. The cornbread provides complex carbohydrate. Together, they are a full meal. This combination has never required improvement. Number 11. Potatoes fried in butter. 2 medium russet potatoes cost under 20 cents in 1972. 1 tablespoon of butter cost 3 cents. You slice the potatoes thin as you can manage, and do not peel them. Into a skillet with butter over medium heat. You spread them in a single layer and press them flat. They begin to soften and go translucent within 3 minutes. You do not move them. You let the bottom side go golden and slightly crisp before you flip. Salt, black pepper, a few flips more. Total time, 12 minutes. Fried potatoes were the backbone of the Irish working-class diet for 3 centuries. In America, every immigrant tradition from Eastern European to Appalachian to Cajun incorporated the fried potato as a primary side or a complete meal. It required nothing but fire and fat. For seniors, potatoes are soft when properly cooked, deeply filling, and cost almost nothing year-round. They do not require significant knife skill to slice. A single skillet does everything. The smell of butter and potato in the morning is one of the most grounding things a kitchen can produce. Number 10. Pinto beans and cornbread. A pound of dried pinto beans cost 35 cents in 1973. They produced 8 full servings. You soak the beans overnight. In the morning, you cover them with fresh water and a piece of salt pork, about 2 ounces, roughly 20 cents. You bring them to a slow boil and let them simmer for 2 hours. You add salt at the end, not before, because early salt toughens the skins. The broth turns a pale reddish brown. The beans are completely soft. You serve them in a bowl alongside a square of cornbread. Pinto beans and cornbread is the central meal of Appalachian working-class culture. It was eaten in coal mining camps across West Virginia and Kentucky throughout the 20th century. It was not considered a poor meal. It was considered Tuesday. For seniors, this dish requires perhaps 30 minutes of preparation spread across 2 days, the soak and the simmer. The result is 4 to 5 meals from a single cooking session. The beans are completely soft, require no dental strength, and deliver more fiber per serving than almost anything else in the American food tradition. Number 9. Chicken and rice soup from scratch. A whole chicken cost under $1.50 in 1973. A cup of long-grain rice cost 9 cents. Together with an onion, 2 carrots, and some celery, all under 40 cents, this pot produced 8 full bowls of soup from $1.99. You put the whole chicken in a large pot with cold water. You add the onion, halved, the carrots, the celery, a bay leaf, and a palmful of salt. You bring it slowly to a simmer, not a boil, a simmer. You let it go for 45 minutes. The kitchen fills with a smell that is particular to this and nothing else. The deep, round, clean smell of a whole chicken giving everything it has into the water around it. For seniors, this soup is everything at once. It is soft, it is warm, it is complete protein. It keeps for 5 days. It requires no dental work, no special equipment, no standing for more than 10 minutes at a time. You can make it on Monday and eat well through Friday. Number 8. Canned peaches over cottage cheese. A 15-ounce can of Del Monte sliced peaches cost 39 cents in 1976. A 1-pound container of cottage cheese cost 59 cents and lasted 3 servings. You open the can. You scoop a half cup of cottage cheese into a bowl. You spoon the peaches over the top, adding a small amount of the syrup from the can. The syrup runs down through the cottage cheese and pools at the base of the bowl. Number 7. Fried apples with cinnamon. 3 medium apples cost under 30 cents in 1972. A stick of butter cost 20 cents. A half teaspoon of cinnamon cost almost nothing. You peel and slice the apples. Not too thin, you want them to hold their shape. Into a skillet with 2 tablespoons of butter over medium heat. They soften within 3 minutes and go slightly translucent at the edges. You add a tablespoon of sugar and a half teaspoon of cinnamon. The sugar dissolves into the butter and the apple juices and forms a thin amber glaze. The kitchen smells like October. Fried apples were a staple of southern Appalachian cooking from the colonial period forward. Every homestead with an apple tree, which was nearly all of them, made this dish from fall through early spring using stored apples. It was a side dish, a dessert, a breakfast, and a full meal, depending on what else was available. For seniors, fried apples are completely soft when properly cooked. Number 5. Tomato sandwich with mayonnaise. A ripe summer tomato from a garden cost nothing. Duke's mayonnaise cost 63 cents for 16 ounces in 1973. White bread cost 32 cents a loaf. You wait for August. You wait until the tomato is so ripe it leaves a stain where it rests. You slice it thick, a full 1/4 inch. You spread mayonnaise generously on both slices of bread. You lay the tomato flat. You add salt directly onto the tomato slice. You close the sandwich and eat it immediately before the bread softens. The tomato sandwich is the oldest summer tradition in the American South. It crossed every class line because anyone with a garden had tomatoes in August. Sharecroppers and senators ate the same sandwich. Number 4. Egg salad sandwich. 2 hard-boiled eggs cost under 12 cents in 1971. A tablespoon of mayonnaise cost 2 cents. You boil the eggs for 12 minutes and cool them in cold water. You peel them and chop them, not fine, rough, into a small bowl. You add a spoonful of mayonnaise, a pinch of salt, a pinch of paprika. You stir it once or twice. It should be chunky, not smooth. Between 2 slices of white bread. Egg salad has been a staple of American delicatessen culture since the early 20th century. Jewish deli counters in New York sold it by the pound. Church ladies packed it for funeral receptions. Hospital cafeterias served it on Fridays. It required nothing more than eggs, mayonnaise, and the patience to let them cool. For seniors, egg salad requires no standing over a stove, no heat beyond the boiling water, and no knife work beyond a rough chop. It delivers complete protein. It keeps in the refrigerator for 2 days, meaning one preparation produces 2 lunches. At under 15 cents a serving, it remains one of the most economical protein meals available. Number 3. Vegetable beef soup from scratch. A soup bone cost 29 cents in 1972. A can of diced tomatoes cost 21 cents. Potatoes and carrots together cost under 30 cents. This pot produced 8 full bowls. You put the soup bone in a pot with cold water, a rough-cut onion, and 2 stalks of celery. You bring it to a simmer. You let it go for 2 hours. The broth turns golden. You pull the bone out. You add diced potatoes, sliced carrots, the can of tomatoes, salt, and black pepper. Another 30 minutes. The vegetables soften completely into the broth. This is the foundation of American home cooking from the frontier period forward. Every regional tradition, Southern, Midwestern, Appalachian, immigrant, had a version. The technique did not change across cultures because the technique was correct. For seniors, this soup requires roughly 30 minutes of active time spread across an afternoon. The result is a week's worth of lunches. Everything in the bowl is soft. The broth is warm and deeply savory. There are no sharp edges, no hard textures, nothing that resists. It asks almost nothing of the body and gives almost everything back. Fatback and cornbread. The cornbread came out of the skillet dark on the bottom, pale gold on top, with a crust that crackled when you tapped it. The fatback rendered into the pan first, salt-cured pork fat, white as candle wax, and its grease became the flavor of everything that followed. Fatback cost 3 cents a pound in 1935. Cornmeal cost 2 cents more. In Appalachia, in the Mississippi Delta, in the rural South, this was supper for millions of families 6 nights a week. Not because they lacked imagination, because it worked. The shame came later. When prosperity arrived, people stopped talking about it. You didn't serve cornbread and fatback to company. You learned to be embarrassed by what had kept you alive. Modern chefs now render pork fat deliberately, call it lard, charge $12 a jar at specialty markets, and sell it as artisanal. The food your grandparents ate in silence is now a luxury ingredient. They survived on brilliance they could not afford to name. Make one of these this week. Just one. Make the chicken and rice soup on a Monday. Let the smell fill the house. Or make the biscuits and gravy on a Saturday morning, the way someone once made them for you. When the food is ready, set the table. Use a real plate. Sit down. Eat it slowly. That is what these meals are. Not recipes, not content. Evidence. Evidence that humans have always found a way to nourish each other from almost nothing, and that the knowledge of how to do it, passed from hand to hand across a kitchen counter, is among the most valuable things any of us will ever carry. Leave a comment below. Tell us, would you rather start with the chicken and rice soup or the biscuits and gravy? And while you're there, what meal from this era do you still make today?